Yeah, I mean, this was a crime, it turns out, perpetrated by somebody whose name is literally jihad. You couldn't make it up. It's emerged this evening. But look, it's been a long day. You know, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar began with that depravity in Manchester, and frankly, the response has been so dispiriting. You know, I thought that I couldn't be shocked about the depths that people would go to. But actually, it turns out there's always a further level of depravity. Because people, I mean, I think the worst thing about it really has been seeing people on the left who spent the last 2 years criticizing, smearing, frankly lying about Israel in the most lurid terms, seizing upon this moment as an opportunity to pose not as anti-Semites, to use this attack to express their condolences for the Jewish people as if they weren't encouraging this kind of hatred all along. And I'm afraid that Keir Starmer isn't completely in the clear for this. Don't forget, last week, Hamas were congratulating him on recognizing a Palestinian state. And today, he's decrying or lamenting a Hamas-style attack on our shores in Manchester. The two things rather don't add up, if you ask me. Well, there's so many emotions, I think, in people, in Jews up and down the country. Firstly, there is, as I've said, that anger, which is a lot of which is directed towards the Prime Minister, who has spent the last year, at the very least, condemning Israel with all of his heart and soul, and leaving Hamas almost completely unscathed in his rhetoric, and particularly recognising the Palestinian state without even asking Hamas to release the hostages first. That all is one big betrayal that's whipped up people against the Jews. He has a lot of responsibility for a lot of the hatred, I think. But also there's fear, of course, and anguish. You know, Jews have been living with tight security for a very long time. I think it's unusual for people in the mainstream to know what living as a Jew today is like. There aren't very many Jews in Britain, what, 250,000 or so, less than 1% of the overall population. So many people don't know many Jews, and Orthodox Jews in particular live with tight security, almost like airport-style security at their synagogues, their schools, and elsewhere. You know, I grew up in the Orthodox community in the 80s and 90s, and it was bad then. There was security at synagogues then. And my school had several bomb scares. We had to be evacuated. We had thugs coming round. I had a physics teacher called Mr. Paget, who was an ex-copper who marched people out when they came to have a go at us. That was happening then, and it's only got worse since. And it seems to peak every time Israel is called upon to defend itself against jihadism. That's when it really lifts its mask and people come out and try to attack Jews in this country as a kind of excuse. So people are used to that, but the fact that this was a deadly attack makes people feel very concerned indeed. We're used to living with this threat, but this has taken it to a different level.